This video is based on the knowledge of Epictetus, the Stoic philosopher who was born a slave and rose to become a master of emperors. What you are about to hear is structured as if it were an intimate, unfiltered podcast with him, direct, raw, and transformative. Let me ask you something uncomfortable. Are you truly living or just existing? Most people are not living. They are waiting. Waiting for the weekend. Waiting for love. Waiting for the perfect moment to start doing what truly matters. But Epictetus would say, you are not in life. You are in delay. And it's true. How many days do we live mechanically, repeating tasks, absorbed by noise, distracted by goals we never even chose for ourselves? This video is a wake-up call, a philosophical slap in the face. We'll explore why you're losing your life without realizing it, and how Epictetus's timeless Stoic wisdom can bring you back to what matters most. So, hit the like button now, subscribe to the channel, and comment below. I refuse to sleepwalk through my life. Let's wake up together. Chapter 1. The Illusion of Constant Motion. Being busy is not the same as being alive. Epictetus. We are conditioned to believe that being constantly occupied is virtuous. If your calendar is full, you must be important. If you're always tired, you must be successful. But constant motion is not the same as meaningful progress. The truth is that many people use busyness as a disguise, a mask, a way to escape their inner reality. They fill every moment so they don't have to confront the uncomfortable question, what am I really doing with my life? Psychology calls this experiential avoidance, when we bury ourselves in tasks to avoid dealing with feelings of fear, emptiness, confusion, or shame. Epictetus would be ruthless in pointing this out. He'd call it what it is, self-deception. You run from yourself and call it ambition. Epictetus. We are addicted to movement. But here's the danger. You can be in motion and still be going nowhere. You can be highly productive and still be deeply lost. We become so used to running that we forget how to stop. And without stillness, there is no reflection. Without reflection, there is no clarity. And without clarity, we live in circles, mistaking activity for progress. The Stoics knew this. They didn't glorify being busy. They glorified being deliberate. Epictetus asked his students, could you sit alone in a room with your own thoughts and feel peace or panic? Because the silence reveals everything, and most people, they fear that silence more than death. Let's be honest. How often do you fill your time just to avoid asking the deeper questions? How often do you reach for your phone, your tasks, your work, your screens, not because they matter, but because they distract? There's a reason why moments of stillness are so rare today. They're uncomfortable, but within that discomfort lies the doorway to awakening. The path back to yourself begins the moment you stop. Stop just for a moment, not to do nothing, but to observe everything. As Epictetus would say, slow down, not to be lazy, but to become conscious. Chapter 2. The Enemy. You try to control. Epictetus said, there is only one way to happiness, to cease worrying about things which are beyond the power of our will. Yet most people spend their lives the opposite, trying to control what was never theirs. People, opinions, outcomes, the past, the future. It starts early. You try to make your parents proud. You try to make your friends like you. You try to get everyone to understand you, respect you, applaud you. You try to make life fair. And when it doesn't happen, you suffer. The mind spins in loops. Why did they say that? What if it doesn't work out? How do I make them change? But Epictetus taught one of the most liberating principles in all of Stoicism. There are only two categories in life: what is within your control, what is not. That's it. Your thoughts, choices, intentions, and values, that's your domain. Everything else? It's noise. Let that sink in. The past? Not yours. What they think of you? Not yours. The weather? The economy? The likes on a post? Not yours. And yet, these are the very things people obsess over daily. Epictetus didn't ask us to abandon life. He asked us to reclaim it, to stop being emotional hostages to what others do, say, or think. In modern psychology, this relates to what we call external locus of control, the belief that your life is determined by outside forces. It leads to anxiety, depression, powerlessness. But those with an internal locus of control, who focus only on what they can influence, become more resilient, calm, and confident. Epictetus gave us a razor-sharp test. If it is not within your will, let it go. Try this. When something disturbs you, stop and ask, is this mine to carry? If the answer is no, drop it like fire. Imagine the freedom you would feel. Imagine the energy you would regain if you stopped carrying what was never yours to hold. Chapter 3. The soul numbed by repetition. Epictetus warned, routine without awareness dulls the soul. There is a special kind of death. It doesn't happen when the heart stops beating, but when the mind stops questioning. When your days become copy-paste versions of the one before. When you wake up, eat, work, scroll, sleep, repeat, and somehow years go by. The tragedy isn't what we do, it's that we do it without thinking. How did you get here? Why do you want what you want? What version of success are you chasing, and who sold it to you? Most people don't know, because they've been too busy to ask. Epictetus saw this clearly. He believed that every human being had a daemon, a kind of inner spirit, a divine guide. But this daemon can't be heard in noise. It speaks in silence. And without silence, we live someone else's life. We follow someone else's script. We serve someone else's gods. The Stoics didn't fear failure. They feared unconsciousness. They feared living without examination. That's why Epictetus emphasized daily reflection. He instructed his students to end each day with one question. What did I do well? What did I do wrong? What can I improve? Not to judge, but to awaken. Today, this is echoed in psychological literature through metacognition, the ability to think about your own thinking. Those who reflect consistently make better decisions, handle stress more effectively, and grow faster emotionally. You don't need to quit your job or move to the mountains. You just need to stop living on autopilot. Ask yourself, if you lived today 100 times, would it be a life worth repeating? Or would it be one long loop of unconscious habits, shallow distractions, and numb ambition? You don't need more time. You need more awareness. Chapter 4. The pain of betraying yourself. Epictetus said, no man is free who is not master of himself. But let's take it deeper, because most people think that being true to yourself is a vague concept, a luxury even. But in Stoicism, it's a necessity. Your soul is not a machine. It's not programmable. It knows when you're lying to it. You can fake a smile. You can pretend to agree. You can laugh at jokes you hate, say yes when everything inside you screams no. But your inner world keeps the receipts, and the cost is heavy. When you betray your values, not once but over and over, something inside you begins to erode. And that erosion, it shows up in your anxiety, in your fatigue, in your quiet dissatisfaction, in that dull ache you can't quite name. Modern psychology calls this cognitive dissonance, the gap between what we believe and what we do. Epictetus saw it as moral suicide. How can you respect yourself if you live in contradiction with your nature? And what is your nature? It's not perfection. It's integrity. It's aligning what you think with what you choose, what you say, with what you live, what you value, with what you protect. But why do we betray ourselves? Because we're afraid. Afraid of being judged, afraid of being rejected, afraid of standing alone. But here's the paradox. Every time you abandon yourself to be accepted, you lose both. You lose your own respect and theirs. Epictetus taught that freedom is not external permission. It's inner alignment, the quiet, unshakable strength of knowing that your choices match your principles even when no one is watching. So ask yourself, where are you still betraying your truth to maintain an illusion? What parts of yourself have you silenced just to fit in? And who do you think you're helping by doing that? You were not born to please the world. You were born to walk it awake. Chapter 5. Presence as a Radical Act. Epictetus wrote, "You must stop letting your mind be a slave to what happened yesterday or what might happen tomorrow. In other words, be here, be now, entirely." Sounds simple. But in a culture of noise, presence has become a lost art. We are surrounded by distractions engineered to fracture our attention, dopamine hits from notifications, endless scrolling, micro doses of fake pleasure designed to steal real moments. But the Stoics knew something profound. Distraction is not neutral. It's a form of slow spiritual decay. Every time you're with someone and thinking of something else, every time you eat without tasting, every time you breathe without noticing, you're not just missing life. You're practicing absence. And the more you practice being absent, the more foreign presence becomes. But Epictetus taught that presence is not just awareness. It is a form of power. Only the present is in your possession. The rest is illusion. Modern neuroscience now proves what he intuited. The practice of mindfulness, being fully engaged with your thoughts, emotions, and sensations, changes the structure of the brain. It strengthens the prefrontal cortex, lowers cortisol, improves memory, and boosts emotional regulation. But more than that, it reconnects you with reality. And reality is where life actually happens. Presence is not sitting cross-legged in a cave. It's looking someone in the eye when they speak. It's walking without your phone. It's choosing not to escape this moment just because another seems more exciting. Presence is not always pleasant. Sometimes it reveals pain, boredom, tension. But Epictetus would argue that's the point. That's the door. Because only when you are fully present can you fully choose. Chapter 6. Freedom is self-mastery, not permission. Epictetus taught one of the most misunderstood truths of human existence. Freedom is not the ability to do whatever you want. It is the power to not be ruled by what wants to control you. In today's world, we confuse liberty with indulgence. We think that being free means giving in to every impulse, chasing every desire, avoiding every discomfort. But let me ask you, when was the last time you wanted something badly and said no to it consciously? When was the last time you felt anger rising and chose not to act on it? When was the last time you sat with a difficult feeling and let it pass without trying to numb it? That is freedom. That is what Epictetus called inner strength. If you want to be free, learn first to govern yourself. Epictetus. Because the one who cannot say no is not free. The one who cannot wait is not free. The one who needs approval to feel valid is not free. The Stoic idea of liberty has nothing to do with external laws or politics. It has everything to do with internal governance. You are the ruler of your own mind, or its prisoner, and no amount of money, admiration, or influence can change that. This is echoed today in the psychological concept of delayed gratification, most famously explored in the Stanford marshmallow experiment. Children who learn to pause, to resist the urge for an immediate reward, had better outcomes in life, more emotional control, stronger relationships, higher achievement. The lesson? Impulse is natural, but power is in what you do next. So Epictetus would challenge you. What controls you? What fears, hungers, habits are still holding the strings? You'll know you're free when nothing owns your choices but your reason. Chapter 7. The moment you wake up. And then there comes a moment, a crack in the noise, a sudden silence in the chaos, a question that hits harder than any answer. What am I doing with my life? That moment, rare, terrifying, beautiful, is when something ancient inside you stirs. The daemon, as Epictetus called it. The inner spirit that remembers what you were before the world told you what to become. And from that place, the voice rises. Enough. Enough of pretending, enough of rushing, enough of carrying what is not mine. This is the moment you wake up, not just to your circumstances, but to your power. Epictetus didn't want fans. He wanted people to become warriors of their own spirit. You were not made to serve your fears. You were not made to live asleep. You were not made to waste this one life. Everything you need is already inside. You do not need to be saved. You need to see that your time is not endless, that your soul is not disposable, that the cost of ignoring your truth is your life. So stop right now. Feel the breath in your chest. Feel the weight of your choices. Feel the presence of this very moment and choose for real, for once, to live it awake. You've just walked through 7 deep reflections based on the teachings of Epictetus, a man who had nothing, no wealth, no freedom, no title, and yet became one of the most mentally unshakable beings in history. He was not free by birth. He was not privileged by society, but he discovered the only freedom that no one can take, the freedom to master yourself. He didn't promise a life without pain. He didn't teach you how to avoid failure. He didn't even care if the world applauded you or not. He only cared about one thing. Are you awake? Or are you asleep while your life passes you by? Because you can have everything and still feel empty. You can be admired and still feel false. You can be surrounded and still be lost inside. But if you start living with awareness, if you choose to focus only on what depends on you, if you stop betraying yourself for the sake of comfort or validation, then life begins right there, right now. Not in another job, not in another city, not in another person. Here, inside, present. So if this video stirred something in you, don't let it fade. Write in the comments, I choose to live with awareness. Share this video with someone who needs this wake-up call, someone who's too busy surviving and forgetting to live. Subscribe to the channel and activate the bell because This isn't just content. It's a return to your essence. And remember, life is not short, but it becomes short for those who remain asleep. Wake up, take back your mind, and live like your soul has been waiting for this moment, because it has